A new op-ed is sounding the alarm about the pitfalls of investing in cryptocurrency. The author makes the case that while Bitcoin's prices and privacy draw investors, the consequence will be a revolution in money and finance.
So should cryptocurrency be regulated? Democratic strategist Jennifer Holdsworth-Karp and Senior Director of Policy at the Conservative Partnership Institute, Rachel Bovard, join us now to discuss. So what do we think here, right? I think that, cryptocurrency has been incredibly painful in my life. I've only lost money when I invested in it. So from personal investment, and don't take that as advice, obviously. But do we need to regulate cryptocurrency? It's kind of still a little bit the Wild West. I mean, I guess now it has to be reported to tax collecting bodies like the IRS, but it's still pretty unregulated.
Rachel, you're an evil somebody who wants to get rid of all regulations and let the market run rampant. So let's toss to you. Are you trying to clamp down on these adventurous Bitcoin crypto investors?
So I'm not yet ready, I think, to bring down the hammer on crypto investors. And it's kind of interesting because following all these cyber hacks, I did wonder, I was like, is this the justification people are going to use to regulate crypto to the moon, right? Is this idea that, hackers use it? We saw it most recently with the Colonial pipeline. I think the JBS meatpacking plant was also shut down with a Bitcoin ransom. And it's interesting because when I started to look at this problem, people point to the Bitcoin, but the problem isn't Bitcoin, it's cyber terrorism. Right? It's not actually, and I don't actually think Bitcoin is the one propelling that forward. If you look at all of the major cyber hacks, even the hacks of our unemployment insurance, which was hacked by, other countries. There was a report in Axios recently that half of it was hacked, by rogue states like North Korea, who actually financed their country by engaging in cyber terrorism. That's the issue. Less Bitcoin and more our cybersecurity. So I don't actually think you can talk about crypto from that perspective on an even ground unless we're willing to actually put in the investment and resources to deal with our cyber terrorism problem first. Then we can sort of look at if Bitcoin is actually financing the problem, which I don't think that it is yet.
Well, even after a recent fall in prices, the total market value of all cryptocurrencies still exceeds $1.5 trillion. In fact, the recent sell-off has actually emboldened buyers to invest even more in digital currencies, according to a survey by Voyager Digital.
What do you think about that, Jennifer?
So yeah, there's a common term on crypto Twitter. It's called buy the dip, right? And it is very, very popular where retail investors actually buy more as the price goes down. But interesting about that, you're seeing some of the big boys do the same thing. So I think the only reason that a lot of folks are interested in regulating now is because they're seeing the normal fintech sector get involved in crypto. I want to be very clear. I do not support regulating crypto at this moment in any way, shape, or form. The reason why is because a lot of the folks coming forward and talking about regulation clearly have absolutely no idea what is involved in cryptocurrency. The only thing that they have ever heard of is Bitcoin. There is a huge industry and ecosystem behind cryptocurrency that actually has nothing to do with Bitcoin. They're talking specifically about proof of work, which is the environmental concerns, which is why you see Elon Musk, tweeting about it all the time. But there are so many divisions in the ecosphere. You've got proof of work, proof of stake. You've got oracles, and then you've got things like meme coins is what people really talk about, right? Dogecoin, that are purely speculative, right? But one of the most important things to understand is that these are all backed by public ledger technology. You've probably heard of blockchain, right? One of the reasons why the FBI was able to go and to find out, who exactly hacked the pipeline and retrieve some of that ransom money was because of public ledger technology. This is one of the greatest revolutions in the financial industry since the invention of the internet. The internet was never going to stay the same all the time. We need to make sure that anybody who even talks about regulation understands blockchain technology. And when you're talking about the criminality and those that might be targeted about this, let's talk about the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar has been used for crimes since its inception, since its invention. So it is a ridiculous argument. And if somebody like the FBI, with the resources that they have, are able to go after and pretty easily find out who did the hacking, right? This is not something that we should be regulating. This is something that we should be encouraging. We should be fostering innovation in this technology at every single turn. And I agree with Rachel. If we have concerns about the criminality, we should be focused on the cybercrime part of it, not the innovation in cryptocurrency. This is going to be one of the greatest equalizers of the unbanked that the world has ever seen. And I encourage more people to actually understand what crypto is and what the technology is that backs the industry than to just take a look at one tweet about Bitcoin from Elon Musk and say, oh my God, we have to regulate it and let's tax it to death. This could be one of the biggest innovations that the world has ever seen in terms of monetary equality. And it's not something that should be stifled.
So whether you support regulations or not, I actually think regulations are inevitable. Jennifer, I think your parallel to the early years of the internet is actually really instructive here. And so then the question becomes, does even gentle regulation sort of defeat the model in and of itself? That's kind of an interesting thing about this particular structure. And by the way, rich people love regulation because they make money off of it and it screws the rest of us. And U.S. Senator Pat Toomey, actually, he is urging Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to revise proposed U.S. crypto regulation, writing, quote, "While I recognize that proposals are seeking to address the misuse of cryptocurrencies for illicit activity, if adopted, they would have a detrimental impact on financial technology, the fundamental privacy of Americans, and efforts to combat illicit activity." Rachel, I want to toss that statement from Toomey to you with a quote from Peter Thiel, who says he's pro-crypto and a pro-Bitcoin maximalist. We know that. But he's also called Bitcoin a Chinese financial weapon. So with those two kind of perspectives in mind, what do you think the regulatory path for crypto might look like as Washington starts to figure out what it wants to do about it?
Well, I think there's a distinction between curiosity and regulation, right? And I think we're still in the curiosity phase. And I think that's where we need to be, because I think, as Jennifer pointed out, there's so many, I think, members of Congress that have no idea. I mean, we're dealing with, like, back in the Facebook ads, right, with Orrin Hatch being like asking Mark Zuckerberg how he makes money. Like, that's the phase of Bitcoin regulation that we're in, is I think that. But I do think, as, you know, crypto sort of makes its way into the mainstream sector, you are going to see, I think, more congressional curiosity and more interest in this space. And I bring up Facebook's starting its own cryptocurrency. Now, it's not a traditional crypto in the sense that it's like linked to the US dollar. But I think when you have more incumbent and interests start to get into this space, then you are naturally going to see, I think, more curiosity for this. So I do think Jennifer's right. Like, I don't think it's the time to step on the gas right now, but I do think there needs to be a whole lot more interest and education going on here. And I think there will be, because anything that's volatile as Bitcoin gets people's attention in the crypto markets across the world, but especially in the government. There's people that do not like volatility. So that in and of itself, I think, is going to capture some attention.
That's very true. I think one of the interesting things here is that, you know, it follows a trend that's ongoing, which is the democratization now of financial markets, because it's created a new product that people can conduct transactions with outside of huge and you know, painful banking fees for regular folks. So, you know, I agree that it probably needs some regulation and ways to look at it, but we certainly don't want to kill it now because it's helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ladies, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
We'll have Richard Hanania on to talk about a fascinating new essay that he wrote. There will be more Rising for you right after this.